road to the Red Forest. The zone greeted them with its usual oppressive silence. 4 stalkers, Max, Lyoka, Rotnik, and Demon, moved single file along a barely visible path cutting into the rusted heart of the anomalous territory. Max, the unofficial leader of the group, walked first. Every step of his was calculated with the experience of years of treks, his face a weather-beaten mask of focus, showing only one thing: the goal. The goal was the unfinished 5th power unit of the Chernobyl NPP, a place surrounded by legends. Some said that experimental fuel elements Artifact M were still stored in lead containers there, capable of powering a small city for a year. Others whispered about something else, something called Project Echo, a Soviet development that was neither completed nor destroyed, something that dozens of stalkers had hunted, but from which none had ever returned.
Max, let's take a break, croaked Demon from the back, the youngest and least experienced in the group. He was breathing heavily, and his brand-new Zarya suit already felt tight and hot. Max stopped, and without turning, said, 5 minutes, no more. Rotnik, scout the area. Rotnik, a former soldier whose call sign had become his name, nodded silently. He was the complete opposite of the jittery Demon, a mountain of muscle and calm, clutching a battered rifle. His cold, watchful eyes scanned the forest around them, as if searching for invisible tripwires. Last came Lyoka, the group's tech genius. He immediately dropped to one knee and pulled a dicellular radiometer from his backpack. The screen beeped unpleasantly and flickered with numbers. "It's odd as hell," he muttered, adjusting his glasses. "We're already hitting 1.5 Roentgens per hour. And we're not even in the Red Forest yet. That's why no one comes here," Max replied, pulling out a flask. "Big risk, big reward." "Demon, you good?" "I'm fine," he lied, trying to stop his hands from trembling. It was his first serious raid, and the reality of the zone was far scarier than any campfire story. Their path led through the Red Forest, the deadliest and most radioactive place in the entire exclusion zone. With every kilometer, the landscape became more surreal. Mutilated reddish pines stretched their dead branches toward the leaden sky. The ground was covered in a layer of rust-colored needles that crunched underfoot like broken glass. The silence here wasn't just an absence of sound. It pressed in, crawling into ears, making hearts beat faster. "The Geiger's going crazy," Lyoka said nervously as they delved deeper into the forest. The dosimeter needle jerked toward the red zone. "Max, this is no joke." "I see it," Max replied curtly. He felt it too, a distinct metallic taste in his mouth and a pounding hammer behind his temples. Demon stumbled and nearly fell. "My head's spinning." "Radiation poisoning. Early symptoms." Rotnik skidded without even turning. "Endure it, soldier, or turn back while you still can." "I'm fine." Demon snapped back. But he wasn't fine. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw things that weren't there. Dark figures flitting between trees, distorted faces in the patterns of bark. Hallucinations. He shook his head, trying to banish the visions. By evening, as the sun sank into a crimson haze, they reached a small clearing. In the center stood a crooked wooden house, maybe an old weather station or a long-abandoned Soviet hunting lodge. The windows were smashed, the roof had caved in, but the walls still stood. "We camp here," Max decided. Light the fire inside, set up tripwires. Moving forward in the dark is suicide. This place stinks, grumbled Rotnik, inspecting the building. Too quiet. And he was right. Dead, absolute silence surrounded them. No crickets, no night birds, only the crackle of the dosimeter and their own breathing. The air was still and heavy, and each of them felt the eerie sensation that something in the sick, red, dark forest was watching them intently. They had a quick meal of canned food and crashed to sleep. 2-man shifts, 2 hours each. First were Max and Demon. Second, Lyoka and Rotnik. When the clock struck midnight, Rotnik relieved Max. He sat at the entrance, rifle on his knees. Lyoka was already nodding off, buried in his PDA. Rotnik pulled out a cigarette, but remembering stealth protocol, only crumbled it in his fingers. Insomnia and anxiety gnawed at him. He got up and stepped onto the porch to stretch his stiff legs. And that's when he saw them. In the heart of the forest, about 100 meters from the house, 2 lights lit up, bright green, phosphorescent. Rotnik froze. A wolf? A mutant boar? He slowly raised his rifle. The lights didn't blink. They just stared. He blinked, and in that instant the eyes vanished. A moment of relief turned into chilling horror when they flared again, now twice as close. They hadn't moved. They had simply gone out in one place and lit up in another. Instantly. What the hell? Raced through the seasoned fighter's mind. He raised the rifle, switching to the thermal scope, but it showed nothing. The object's temperature matched the background. Then he switched to night vision. The image turned a poisonous green, and he saw it. It was something huge, standing on 4 massive limbs. But it wasn't a beast. The silhouette was wrong. Long, unnaturally bent limbs, a powerful chest, but in the posture, in the way the head turned, there was something distinctly human. It stood motionless, only the green eyes burning in the scope with an otherworldly fire. Rotnik felt cold sweat run down his spine. He'd spent his life fighting humans. He was ready for the zone's mutants, blind dogs, snorks, bloodsuckers. But this was something else, something that shouldn't exist. He silently stepped back into the house, closing the door tightly behind him. His face was pale as a sheet. "Lyoka, get up," he hissed. "We've got company. And grab the dosimeter. Now." Siege at the weather station. Lyoka, half asleep, didn't immediately grasp what was happening. He saw Ratnik's distorted face and instinctively grabbed his weapon. "What is it? Mutants?" "Worse," Ratnik snapped, taking position at the window. "Max, Demon, wake up. We've got trouble." The awakened stalkers jumped to their feet. Max was beside Ratnik in an instant. "Report. There's a creature in the forest. I don't know what it is. Moves instantly. The thermal scope doesn't see it. Big, on 4 legs, but looks human. And the eyes, they glow green." "Radiation? Hallucinations?" Lyoka asked hopefully, turning on his PDA. "I know the difference between a glitch and reality. It's out there, and it's not alone." At that moment, the dosimeter lying on the table erupted in a deafening, continuous screech. The needle slammed into the far edge of the red zone. "What the?" Lyoka grabbed the device. "Background just spiked tenfold, right now." Then they heard it, a faint scraping sound along the outside wall of the house. Then another, and another, from different sides. They were surrounded. Max peeked through a crack between the boards. In the darkness, between the twisted tree trunks, he saw them. Dozens of pairs of green eyes. They flashed and vanished in different places, moving at incredible speed, completely silently. The house was under siege. "What the hell are those?" Demon whispered, his voice shaking. "Wolves?" "Those aren't wolves," Max replied, and for the first time on the entire trek, there was fear in his voice. They're radioactive werewolves." Leoka pointed the night vision camera out the window and swallowed hard. "God, they're not just animals. They're intelligent. Look, they're not charging in. They're looking for weak spots." The creatures were indeed acting in a coordinated, tactical way. They didn't howl or growl. They were silent killing machines, woven from darkness, radiation, and pure hatred. With every approach to the walls, the dosimeter's scream turned into a death cry. The stalkers were caught in a double trap. Behind the thin wooden walls waited fangs and claws, and inside, invisible death was slowly killing them. "Barricade the windows and door," Max ordered. "Bring everything, cables, beds, crates." A desperate effort began. They blocked the only entrance with an old metal cabinet, reinforced the windows with rotting bunks. The house became almost dark, only flashlight beams cutting through the gloom to reveal tense, sweaty faces. Suddenly came a crack. One of the creatures started breaking through the wall, sliding a long, clawed limb through a gap in the boards. Ratnik didn't hesitate. He let off a short burst. The gunfire in the confined space deafened everyone. A brief, inhuman screech sounded from outside, and the limb vanished. "Got one," Ratnik rasped. "There's dozens of them here," Demon shouted, slipping into panic. "We don't have enough bullets! We're all gonna die in here! The radiation's cooking us alive!" "Shut up," Max barked. "Panic means death. Leoka, ideas? What the hell are these things?" Leoka staring at his PDA screen, frantically searching. "I don't know. There's nothing like this in any database. These aren't mutants born from an emission. This is something else. They are the source of radiation. They've mutated into something between man and wolf, and they're smart. Too smart." The scraping intensified. Now the walls were being clawed at in several places at once. The house shook as if alive. The old wood creaked under the pressure of inhuman strength. "They're getting in," Ratnik stated, reloading his rifle. "It's only a matter of time." Time dragged like an eternity. The stalkers returned fire whenever the creatures got too close, saving every bullet. The air inside became stifling, saturated with the smell of gunpowder, sweat, and ozone, the smell that appears when radiation levels are high. At one point, Leoka broke. He leapt up and screamed, "Let me out!" rushing towards the barricaded door. "I'm not going to roast alive in here!" Ratnik grabbed him in one move, pinned him against the wall. "Calm the hell down. You want to die? Go, but don't touch the door." At that exact moment, taking advantage of the noise, one of the creatures made a decisive move. With a deafening crash, it burst through a section of wall they'd thought was the strongest. A dark, glistening bulk charged through the opening. In the beam of their flashlights, they saw it. Hairless, scar-covered skin, massive wolf jaws dripping with glowing saliva, and eyes, two emerald fires filled with hatred and intelligence. Leoka, closest to it, screamed and stumbled back. The creature lunged at him. Ratnik and Max opened fire at once. Bullets tore into the monster's body, but it didn't seem to care, intent on reaching its prey. It managed to slash Leoka's arm with its claws before Ratnik, jumping in close, emptied the rest of his mag into its head. The beast twitched and went still, collapsing to the floor. "Leoka, you good?" Max rushed to him. Leoka sat on the floor, clutching a deep gash in his forearm. Blood poured through his fingers. "I'll live. I think... But that wasn't the worst part. The dosimeter next to the creature's corpse showed insane readings. Its body radiated like a chunk of reactor graphite. "We can't stay here," Max said, looking at the hole in the wall, beyond which new pairs of green eyes already shimmered. He unfolded an old map of the area on the table. "We have one option: break through." He pointed to a spot on the map. "The fifth reactor. It's the only solid structure for miles. Concrete walls they can't chew through. There we can either wait it out or find something to destroy them. It's our only chance."
Lair in the fifth reactor. The decision was made. Staying in a wooden trap meant certain death. Breaking through the ring of monsters was nearly suicidal, but it offered a fleeting hope. "Get ready," Max commanded. "We run on 3. Don't stop, don't look back. Shoot only if directly threatened. Objective, the reactor. Rutnik, you cover our retreat. Dimon, you're behind me. Lyoka, stick to the middle." They shoved the barricade off the door. The night air, cold and poisonous, rushed inside. Ahead of them, in the darkness, dozens of green lights gleamed. 1, 2, 3! They burst out of the house like a spring released. The world exploded into chaos. Machine gun bursts mixed with inhuman shrieks. The creatures attacked from all sides. It wasn't a hunt. It was a slaughter. Dimon, running behind Max, stumbled. For a second. That second was enough. A dark shadow knocked him off his feet. His scream cut off almost immediately. Max turned back, but Rotnik grabbed him by the shoulder. "No! He's already dead! Run!" They dashed through the dead forest, pursued by silent shadows at their heels. Green eyes flickered everywhere. Rotnik, firing short bursts, drove off the boldest. Lyoka, clutching his injured arm to his chest, panted heavily, his face twisted in pain. After what felt like an eternity, they saw it. The massive concrete skeleton of the unfinished 5th power unit, looming black against the starry sky. The entrance, an open dark maw, beckoned them like a saving harbor. Summoning their last strength, they broke inside. Ratnik spun and delivered a long burst towards the forest, forcing the pursuers to fall back, then slammed shut the heavy steel gates. Inside, a hollow silence reigned, broken only by their own ragged breathing. They were safe, for now. They found themselves in a vast machine hall. The beams from their flashlights lost themselves in the heights, picking out tangles of rebar, cables, and gigantic uninstalled turbine parts from the gloom. The air was heavy, smelling of concrete, rust, and ozone. "Dosimeter," Lyoka rasped. Max took out his. The device was silent for the very first time in many hours. "Background levels are normal. Impossible." They moved cautiously deeper, scanning their surroundings, and soon they began to find evidence. In one of the side rooms, resembling a laboratory, they discovered broken equipment, papers strewn across the floor, and empty cages large enough to hold a human. Max picked up a folder from the floor. The letters on it were almost rubbed away. Project Echo. Creation of biological entities with increased resistance to gamma radiation. "So that's it," Lyoka whispered, reading over his shoulder. "They're not just mutants. They were created here. Soviet experiments to build super beings." They didn't find refuge, Max realized with horror. They came home. This is their lair. At that moment, Lyoka, who had been clutching his wounded arm, let out a strange moan and sank to his knees. "My arm! It's burning!" Max shone his light on the wound. 4 deep slashes, left by the creature's claws, looked terrible. But that wasn't the worst part. The skin around them had blackened, and the veins glowed with a faint pulsating green light. "Lyoka!"
Max shook him by the shoulder. Leoka lifted his head, and Max recoiled. His eyes, too, began to glow, dimly but unmistakably recognizable, that poisonous green. "It's not just radiation. It's an infection. It's calling me," he screamed, a wild, non-human cry, full of pain and rage. His body began to convulse and contort. Rotnik raised his rifle. "Max, get back!" "No!" Max shouted, but it was too late. Leoka, with inhuman strength, threw him aside and lunged at Ratnik. A short, fierce struggle ensued. A shot rang out. Leoka, now barely human, froze and collapsed onto the concrete floor. Ratnik stood over him, breathing heavily, a piece of rebar protruding from his side, one he'd impaled himself on during the fight. He would have killed us," Ratnik rasped, collapsing to the floor. "Forgive me, Max." Outside, at the gates, scraping sounds came. They were back. Max was alone now. Ratnik died within minutes of blood loss. He was trapped at the very heart of the nest of monsters born of human pride. He was wounded, nearly out of ammo, and doomed. He found a small control room, locked himself inside. He knew it wouldn't last. The scraping on the metal door grew louder. He pulled out his old voice recorder, which he always carried, pressed record. His voice was harsh and weary. "This is Max, Stalker. Team North 4 has been destroyed. We found the 5th reactor. Do not come here, ever. This is not a treasure trove, it's a grave. The creatures, they used to be human. Project Echo. They were created here, and they are still here. They're smart, and they infect." The door shook under a powerful blow. If you find this recording, if you ever end up in the Red Forest and see green eyes in the dark, do not run. It's useless. And do not look. Don't look them in the eyes. A blow. The door popped off its hinges. "They look right into you." The recording ended on the sound of a struggle and a soul-freezing shriek that was neither human nor beast. Years later, another group of stalkers will find, on the floor of the abandoned control room of the 5th power unit, only an old, dust-covered voice recorder, and its final recording will become another terrifying legend of the zone. The legend of the green eyes and of what stares back at you from the darkness of the Red Forest.